I will post it. I'm going to tell you right now, I am a couple of days behind in posting stuff because, well, today I think I've got 5 of these chats going on about every hour and a half. So you can tell I'll be sitting in this very seat all day long doing this chat again and again and again. You guys are the largest one. My smallest one is 150 this afternoon at 3 o'clock. So it's going to be a very, very busy day here in the Richmond household. Welcome, everybody. My name is Scott Richmond. I work in professional development. Glad to have you on this morning. Helping me out this morning, I have 3 moderators with me. I have Alice Jones. Say hi, Alice. Alice, where'd you go? Oh, she got muted.
There we go. Hello, everybody.
There you go. Alice works in our office in PD. I also have my wife, Paula Richmond, helping us out this morning.
Good morning.
And then I have my son, Jonathan, as well. He'll be here for the first half hour.
Good morning, guys.
So we're here to really kind of show you around Zoom and give you an idea about how things work. I'm going to show you just about every feature in Zoom. I have screenshots and things to show you, a little bit of time for you to play around, a question and answer at the end. But with 253 people right now, it's going to take everything in me to get through all the content in about 40 minutes. At least some Q&A time. I will show you every feature. I will record this. I will post it online at some point. I will send all of you a link to it on YouTube to go ahead and access it. But most importantly at this point, you're welcome to take any notes you want. We have an outline that we are going to follow. We're going to go through each feature and things. And you know, we're gonna think about how we can use this as an instructional tool. So what I first want to start out with is some background about Zoom. I've been using it myself for about 3 or 4 years. I teach part-time at Florida Southern College. Most of my classes are online. So I've been using this platform to meet with my students on normally every other week or every couple of week basis to kind of touch base and catch up and talk about the content, as opposed to just doing a discussion forum online. So we'll get together every couple of weeks. In fact, my class that was live this semester has now moved to this format, and we'll be meeting online next week because this is their spring break at Florida Southern for them at this particular week because they're in Polk County. So that's kind of like how I got started with this program. Now, the good thing about it is there's a free version, and most of you signed up for the free version already, and that's fantastic. The free version has 2 limits on it. One is semi-annoying. The other one is extremely annoying. The semi-annoying is you can only have 100 people in a chat at one time. So for most of you, it's not a problem because your classes aren't that big. The second one is there's a 40-minute time limit. That could be an issue as well. And so I was using this for about 2 years with a 40-minute time limit, making sure that my lesson didn't go beyond 40 minutes. If it did, we had to hang up, start a new call. And that's kind of basically how it would go. If I wanted to talk for an hour and a half, I'd have 2 calls. Well, luckily for us, Zoom has stepped up with this crisis going on, and they have dropped your time limit. So you can go beyond the 40 minutes. You can be on for an hour, 2 hours. My alternative certification program trainers were on last night with their first group, and they were doing a 3-hour chat with their folks, and I came on and talked to them as well. So you have no time limit, but still the 100 people per chat feature, and I'll show you all those setup pieces in just a moment. The second thing I want you to be aware of is FERPA, and if you're not familiar with FERPA, it's the Privacy Act regarding students. And so many of you are going to be using this technology with your students, and I'm going to give you just 2 very, very important warnings. As a district office, we are recommending you don't have student video on, and I'll show you how to disable that feature ahead of time. If your principal says, hey, we're going to let you have student video on, but don't record them, that's fine. It's up to your principal. He or she is your boss. I'm not. And I understand the connection piece, ladies and gentlemen. I do. A good friend of ours teaches music in middle school, had her first grade daughter on the other day on Zoom, and the girl, you can see her excitement seeing her friends on the computer because she hasn't seen them in a week and a half. I get that connection piece, especially you elementary folks out there where the kids rely on that social interaction with each other and are probably driving their parents bazonkers. The second piece of this is if you're going to record like I am today, you definitely do not want student videos turned on. You want to have them off to protect student rights. Voices is one thing. You can't identify a voice the way you can a face. So what I've told folks when they've asked me this question in the Q&A at the end is, well, Scott, what if I turn the video on, let them say hi to each other, and turn them off later? That's fine. As long as you're not recording the kids' faces, your principal's okay with it, that's going to be okay. Before we get started with all the content, real quick, make sure you have clicked on the chat feature at the bottom of your window, and that will open up the chat window. when the chat window is open for you, you're going to be able to ask questions in there, and Paula and Alice and Jonathan will respond to you guys if I can't respond at a moment. And then they'll also let me know if it's something I have to answer now, or I can answer later if they can't respond to it right away. Okay, so we're going to get started and go through this training and kind of how things work. First of all, one of the great things the district has done for you is they have got us all lined up with Clever. And if you're not familiar with Clever, you will become very familiar with Clever over the next several weeks that we are all in our isolation. So I'm going to share with you my screen, and I'll show you how this works later on, how I share everything. But this is my Clever login. And I have 2 logins because I taught last year at James for part of the year, and I also am a district administrator. Oh, it didn't do it. It had me logged in. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to use my Lawson number at hcps.net and my district password. I'm going to sign into Clever. And of course, I'm going to go in as a teacher this time. And this is my Clever dashboard. This is everything I have in Clever, all of my apps that I've been working with. And you can see I taught 5th grade last year. So we were doing iReady, we were doing Khan Academy, we were doing even typing club for my kiddos. This is my favorite section. You can add whatever apps you want to your favorite section. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you will see Zoom has been added to all of you. And actually, I see another new one in here that wasn't here yesterday because Zoom was over here on the left. This is more apps. And if you want Zoom to show up in your favorites, all you do is click on the heart, and it will show up here in your favorites. Also on the screen in the middle is this e-learning for school closure piece that everybody has based on what you teach and what you're assigned to. In this one, I only see what I had last year and what everybody sees. In previous years, if I go on my district one, I see everything in here because I'm a district administrator. This PK thing was added yesterday, in fact, halfway through the day. It wasn't there in the morning, and it was there in the afternoon. So plenty of resources here for you guys to use as you get ready to work with your students. I'm going to click on my Zoom icon, and as long as you've done this before, it will take you to and automatically log you in to the Zoom interface. If you have not done this yet, it may ask you a very important question. Do you want to join Troy Suarez's account? Troy Suarez. Troy Suarez is not a stalker, ladies and gentlemen. He's not some crazy guy. He's our supervisor of instructional technology, and he has set all this up for us. And so, Troy, yes, you want to join his account. This is not some crazy thing. It's going to give you the upgraded basic access. And so when you look at my main dashboard, you can see my information here. You can see my meeting limit is 100, just like yours. And then you can also see that my 40-minute time limit has been lifted for my district account. Now you're saying to yourselves, wait a minute, Scott, you told us a couple minutes ago, there's 260 people on here. What are you not telling us? Well, again, I work for Florida Southern on the side, and they have given me a pro account a couple of years ago, so I don't have that 100 limit minus 300. I'm sorry I can't share that with you. I'm just very fortunate I can provide this service for you guys, or there'll only be 95 of you right now, so I can have my moderators and not 100 or 260 of you. Okay, so that's an important piece here. That's really all that matters here. Do we have a question, Alice?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all that matters here. There are 3 other things I want you to see on this page that are going to make your working with Zoom much, much easier. Number 1 is the meetings tab on the left. So I'm going to click on that, and notice I have several meetings scheduled already that I probably want to cancel because they're all fake meetings. But I do have these meetings set up already, and I can set up as many meetings as I want ahead of time. I highly recommend you set up your meetings here on this page. That's the meetings tab in your main Zoom dashboard. So let's go ahead and set up a meeting for me. I'm going to call schedule new meeting. I'm going to call it my fake meeting number 4. And yes, you can laugh at me all you want, ladies and gentlemen. I can't see half your faces anyway, nor can I hear you. But it's okay. I got to have some laughter and fun, right? I've been locked in my house for several days. It's all good. You can set the date when it's going to happen. You can set the start time when it's going to happen anytime you want. I can set this for 2:30 p.m. Know this. The date matters. The time only matters for calendaring. The date matters because that's when it's set up in the system. The time only matters for your calendar. Like I came on this morning at 8:15 and let Paula and Jonathan and Alice in so we could have a discussion before we started about what I expected for this training. So this time here is not as important as is the ability to set up your calendar. Same thing with duration. I mean, I set mine, if it's an hour Zoom webinar like this one is, I set it for 2 hours. That doesn't mean you have to have it that way. It doesn't mean in 2 hours they're going to cut you off. It just is for calendaring purposes, so that I leave my calendar open to make sure I don't schedule these back to back. I'm going to tell you, yesterday doing 4 of these, after each one I needed like 20 minutes to go stand and walk around just to kind of stretch things out. And I highly recommend you do that for yourself as well. Obviously, we're all in Eastern time zone, so don't change that one. Recurring meeting. I don't personally use this one, but I know my trainers are, because many of my trainers who started like last night in the class, they're going to meet the same night on Tuesday at 5:45 for 8 weeks. So they set up a reoccurring meeting. It'll happen again. This just means you don't have to keep sending out that invite again and again and again. You get one invite and they just come back in each week to that same meeting it's scheduled for that time. So if you want to set up office hours, let's say you're going to do your instruction for your kiddos in the morning. You're going to do one set elementary folks from 8 to 8:30, another one from 9 to 9:30, and a third one from 10 to 10:30. And then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you want to have a standing office hours meeting. And this will work for high school and middle school too, by the way, where kids can pop in and out if they have questions. That would be a good use of this recurring meeting piece. Meeting ID, you can make it your personal one, but I never change it because I let it do it automatically. I have so many meetings lined up. I think I now am doing this training about 15 or 17 times this week. And that's a lot to have to do. And that's just for the general public, not the side ones I'm doing for different departments. I require a meeting password. That's just because, again, if I had more than 299 people join this chat, somebody would have gotten cut off. And so I don't want too many folks coming in my meeting. With your kids, you may not need this. That's entirely up to you. Video. Somebody asked about video. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the section of this setup you definitely do not want to skip. For today's purposes, I had it checked off this way, that both host and participant videos would be on. That also gave you the option of having video off. If you didn't have a camera, obviously you don't have video. Like Alice is on with us twice because her computer doesn't have a camera in it, but her phone does. So she doesn't have that. She has a phone to have images if we want to look at her, that kind of thing. But if you click off, it means they won't have the option at all. So if I'm doing this and I'm going to record student videos, I am going to have off here, because that way I know they can't turn their camera on midstream and now I got to stop recording. I got to edit. I got to do it over. And you're saying, well, why would I record my meetings? Well, not every kiddo is going to get on at the same time. Some are going to have brothers and sisters who are on at the same time. Some, I was talking to a colleague yesterday. She's a teacher. They have one computer in the house. She's got to do her Zoom lessons. How's the kid going to do them at the same time? So you may want to record for all those purposes and things like that that might come up. I'm going to leave it on right now because I'm making a fake meeting, but you can see that piece. Audio. I leave this as both because you may have some folks who have to telephone in. If you remember the invitation I sent most of you, except for the 3 or 4 I let in this morning, you got a full piece with phone numbers you could call. You can log into via phone numbers to get in there and be able to come in and talk to us as opposed to being on a computer. Whatever one works for you is fine, but again, I leave it this way. Down at the bottom, meeting options. Enable join before host. Do not check this one ever. No, no, no. Put a big X through it. Cross it off. This is a bad idea. Can you imagine you're a middle school teacher out there, or elementary or high school even, and you enable this and you get caught up doing something. Your dog threw up in the kitchen. You got to clean it up before you start your Zoom chat. The kids get on or doing something in the background while you're not there. Bad, bad, bad idea. So do not enable join before host. This is the one I did this morning to make sure you guys were muted when you came in. I muted you on entry. I also enabled the waiting room, and I like this feature because it makes them sit in the waiting room. I've heard that you can talk to each other in the waiting room. Paula, Alice, and Jonathan and I tested this morning. We were not able to communicate with each other through the waiting room. I communicate with you guys, but you guys weren't able to communicate with each other. I don't use this next feature, authenticated users. It's not that important to me, but I do many times use this feature here, recording it automatically. But again, guys, if you're going to have your kiddos' faces on there at the start, don't turn this one on. You can record later. I'll show you that button in just a moment. Okay, so when you're done with this piece, you click save, and it brings you this handy dandy screen with all your options on there. It gives you the name of your meeting, gives you the date and time. It gives you calendar invites if you want to put it on your calendar. This is the meeting ID you guys punched in. This is the password you guys punched in. This is the link to the training, and I can copy the invitation right here. And this is that handy dandy thing I sent you guys. I just copied the meeting invitation. One thing of note on this invitation that Zoom puts out, at the bottom, make a note for yourself. See this last line down here? My colleagues and I have not found a use for this. I don't know why it's even here. Delete that before you send out your invite via Edsby or Remind or whatever you're doing. And by the way, we tested this out the last couple of days. You can copy and paste this into Edsby under the feed section, under the email, both parents and students section. I'm talking about you, primary teachers. Your parents may want to come on the same time their kiddos are on. You can email this to them at the same time. We're having a Zoom chat. You're welcome to come in and join what we're going to be doing with your kids. You may have it where some parents can't be home. They have to go. They're those first responders. But they may have a break. They can check in and make sure their kid is doing some learning. So a great resource here for you guys on this invitation. Those of you using Remind, and there are some sessions about Remind this week, all we copied was this part right here, the link, the meeting ID, and the password. And yesterday, Paula was able to successfully send this out to her Remind chats for her students. Okay, so if you ever have to edit this again, you can edit here. You can also start your meeting whenever you want, and it will launch it for you from this page. Next thing I want to show you guys over here is on settings. This is important if you want to use the breakout room feature I'm going to show you later. Notice here, there are some settings. I typically keep these as off, and I do this because I want to make sure I set it manually. I don't want to have it just come on where video's on automatically. But you can change any settings here you want. And when you do this, though, this becomes your default. So that's why I've not changed anything on here. But I do go down here. I'm going to scroll down about 2/3 of the way down, and it's going to say advanced. Oh, I went too far. I'm sorry, guys. In meeting advanced. You see this piece right here for breakout room? If you want to use the breakout rooms, you have to click this as on first before you schedule any meetings or start any meetings. Otherwise, this will not show up as your option. Right now, I can't do it because I have remote support on. Oh, there we go. Look at that. I don't need remote support on my account. Thank you very much. So here we go. We got the breakout room going. It's turned on, and I'll show you that feature today in the rest of our chat. So that's the second thing I wanted to show you on this website. The third thing I want to show you is up here in resources, you can download the free Zoom client. This is for your computer. You can also download the app if you have an Android phone or Android tablet or an iPhone or an iPad. There's an app for this on every device. But I'm going to give you my advice, having worked this program for the better part of 3.5 years. If I'm hosting a chat, I always, well, 95% of the time, always do it on a computer. I have had some instances where I've been out of town. I've had to host my web chats with my students on my iPad. It works great. I can share stuff. I can do stuff with them. We can have a conversation. But right now I'm going to click out of this window, go somewhere else just to prove to you I'm not actively in the window with you. I'm in a different window right now. But my face is still moving. I'm still talking to you. You can hear me. You can see me. When I did this on my iPad the first time, and I went to leave the screen to find a document I wanted to share with them or talk about, it froze my face the second I left the screen like this. Okay? So you can laugh at me, it's fine. The next time I did it, it froze me like this. So you need to be careful about that if you're going to do it. So I saw it happen twice. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on there? So next time I had to leave the screen, I went like this. So it kept me frozen in a smile. That's the only kind of hiccup there with that piece. And those of you working off a phone, you'll find it's very difficult to work off a phone as the moderator, as the person doing it. It's much easier to be on a computer. In fact, last night, I had 2 classes going at once. I got my iPad over here on my left-hand side and my desktop here in front of me. I had 2 classes going, and the one over here on my iPad, you have to launch the chat window. You can't leave it open. It's just a little more difficult when you're doing this as a participant versus as the host of everything. So I'm going to get out of this share window. I'm going to bring you guys back together in our group again. Yep. The only thing I changed here on settings, and I'll go back in and let me share it again. Give me 1 second.
This is for Anais Rodriguez.
Yep. So I didn't change anything on here. It's all by default. This is what comes up. But the
Slow down, Scott.
Yep.
You're scrolling really fast.
I know, because I didn't change anything here.
Okay, so
It
the
came by
password,
default.
there's where the require a password is.
Mhm. Yep.
So you don't have to have it.
Yep. No, and many of you may not have put it in because you may have the embed password in the meeting link. If you click on the link, you may not have had to put in the password because I had it there already because you had that link from me. But down here is the one that I did change right here is in the advanced
How do we document?
right here.
We are doing this.
Okay. So we'll get back to that question later. I want to keep going with features on the program. What I want to show you guys now is I'm going to do a series of screenshots that I've taken. And the reason behind that, ladies and gentlemen, is if I go and share my screen with you, which I can do, I can share my entire desktop with you. The problem is it doesn't show any of the windows from Zoom. They all disappear and it shows everything else going on in the background, which is a completely useless feature. If I can't show you what Zoom looks like, why am I showing it to you? So over the last several days, I've taken a series of screenshots of both my computer and then of a Windows computer, so you can kind of see it both ways. This is the first thing I want you to see. This is what my screen looks like when I log into a chat. Okay. Now notice I am on a Mac. I do have dark mode enabled, so most of you, it'll look very similar to this, only have a light background because Windows does everything in a light background. Otherwise, it's very, very similar because I've done it both ways. What I want you to see here is this is just Carrie, my colleague Carrie and I, we were doing a chat together and playing around with some features the other night. This is a chat from Monday morning where you can see I've got myself in that lovely weird pose and I've got the Brady Bunch thing going on here. I did this for you all to see what it looks like from my end of things and how complex this process can be with a large group. Now, hopefully for many of you, you're going to have your 18, 20, 22, 24, 26 students in a class. You know, you're not going to have 200 and some odd people. What are we at now? We're at 290, I think, almost. So that's a big difference here. This one only had 91 yesterday. What I want to do, though, is go over all these buttons at the bottom of the screen with you and tell you what they do, and then I will show you what each one does. Okay? So first of all, on the left, you guys all have this already on your screens. You have a mute button and microphone controls. This is controlling your audio, both your in audio and your out audio. It does both of them in there, and I'll show you those menus in a second. You have a stop video button. This is for your video only. And you can see some folks have already been playing around with virtual backgrounds. I will show you that piece in a minute and give you some tips and tricks on that as well. These two right here on the left are you only. That's why all of you have it right now. I have it, you have it, anybody has it. This does not control student videos. This does not control student audio. It's a totally separate window. All right. Invite. This is if you started a chat and want to invite people and didn't do that handy dandy invitation ahead of time that we did already together for my fake meeting number 4. That's that piece here. Manage participants. That's this window on the right. I'm going to spend some time with you guys on that, but this is different from yours. Yours probably says participants. Mine says manage. This is where I can turn on and off your videos. I can mute your videos. I can bring you in and out. Those kinds of things. I can manage everything here with that piece. Next, we have a share screen. This is where I'm doing all my sharing features from, and I will show you what that looks like in just a moment. Then we have the chat window, which all you guys are in right now. Notice for me, I don't have the chat window active, but it pops up reminders for me of things that come up. So as somebody's taking a message and writing something down, I can see it pop up real quick. But I've tried to pay no attention to that window on the side because I'm just watching what I'm doing with you guys. This is the recording feature. Again, right now we are actively recording. I can pause it or stop it here, and I'll talk about how that works at the end of the chat. And then finally, the breakout room feature. This is that one I just showed you guys a couple of times on the website. If you don't enable it on the website, it will not show up here. That's a very important thing if you're going to use it. I haven't used reactions yet because I don't have a need for it or the time. And then, of course, my end meeting button is here. So that's the basic interface for us as the host of the meeting. All right, let me go now and show you individual pieces of that. So what I'm first going to start with, yes. My voice is breaking up. That has not happened before. That's crazy. Okay. Can you all hear me now? Oh, voice is good, Debbie. Thank you. Okay. I don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. Okay, we'll go back to the invitation later at the end. Okay, so everybody's saying they're good with the voice. Some say it broke up, never broke up. It may just depend on your connection as well, guys, your speed of connection. What I'm going to show you now is what the mute window looks like. So I mentioned that microphone piece. So this is what my mute window looks like when I click on this little up arrow next to the mute. It gives me several options. This is the Windows version of it. I can actually change the microphone I'm using. I can change whatever speakers I'm using. I can test it and make sure it's working. I can do various settings on my microphone only. This is only for my microphone. I really have not played with this once I knew everything was working. I've kind of left it alone because it's working. The next thing is the video piece. And I'm going to show you this both on Windows and on Mac so you can see how it looks on both computers. It's slightly different on one than the other, but ultimately it is the same exact thing. This is the view on my Mac. So when I click the up arrow, it tells me what camera I'm using. If you happen to have a device with more than one camera, that's why this feature is important. It lets me choose a virtual background. I'm going to show you mine in just a moment. And then it lets me edit my video settings however I want to do. I really haven't played with this one a whole lot. This is the Windows version. The only difference is they've changed choose virtual backgrounds on the bottom versus the top. Now, if you want to use a virtual background because you're going to be stuck in the same spot in your house for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever weeks, you can do that. But to do a virtual background, there are two things required. Number one, you have to have the latest version of the Zoom client downloaded. So you may have to go back to zoom.us and click on download the client under the resources tab. The second thing is you have to have a computer that has a fast enough processor to do that. And for many of you, you may be using a school computer that may not have that capability. I know for me personally, my laptop cannot handle it because it's like 6 years old. My desktop can handle it. I'm going to show you in a minute. My iPad was doing it last night. My phone can handle it because those are more recent devices. So I'm going to change my background, then I'm going to show you what that screen looks like. So let's see where I want to go to today. Oh, this one looks good. We'll go here. This is a riverfront in Perth, Scotland. So you can see I'm sitting in front of it now. I'm going to show you how that works again in just a moment, Jamie. Real quick about virtual backgrounds. Two things to know. Number one, make sure that you are wearing a clothing piece that offsets from the color in the room. So for example, the back of my room behind me is a very, very pale green with those level or blinds. They're white. Okay? If I was wearing a white shirt, because the background behind me is pretty much white, my whole body would disappear into the background. I'd be a floating head. I've seen that happen before. The other thing is if you're in a room with very many colors behind you, it may also mess up the image. If you notice, sometimes my hands go in and out. That's because it's trying to cut out the background behind me because I'm sitting in an office. I'm not sitting with like a green screen this morning. But like I can bring my cup in here and notice it, based on where I put it, it disappears as well into the background. It's not a perfect technology, but it tries. Real quick, to get there again, you click on the up arrow next to the stop video button. And when you do that, you'll get a window that looks similar to this one. And so this is again on my Mac, but you can see it has me there with a virtual background behind me. It has the ones I have loaded or have come with the program. It comes both ways. It comes both ways. You see this plus sign right here? That's where you're going to go in to add new backgrounds. You can add almost any picture you want. The ones I'm showing you today are ones I've taken. The one behind Paula, I think she took. You know, that's just, it'll work that way. You can download from Google if you want to and put it behind you. Somebody yesterday sent me a real nice photo of the Florida Gator Stadium, and I put that one behind me because I'm missing football right now and sports in general. So those are the kinds of things you can do with the virtual background. It really is kind of a neat feature and a neat way to work with that. The next window we're going to look at is the Manage Participants window. And when you click on that, you're going to see it in a couple of different ways. The first one is this one here. So this is my colleague Barb and I were on getting ready for a chat the other day. This is the first one we did on Monday morning. And you can see it's got her and I. We're in the gallery view. See speaker view up here? That's where I change between the views. This is the waiting room. These guys are all in the waiting room, and 2 of us are in the meeting room. A couple things you see on the screen so you know what they mean. The red line through something like the camera here means Barb has her camera off. Obviously, it's off. If you have a red line through your microphone, that's because the microphone has been taken off and turned off. But the neat thing about this feature is I can admit everybody at one time. So when I opened up the weight room and let you guys in, there were like 200 people in there. And y'all just came right in automatically instead of me having to go admit, 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 admit. But before you guys came on board, I admitted Alice and Paula and Jonathan so they can come help me out and talk about things before we got started. In addition, another neat feature of the participant window are these 2 buttons down here where I can mute all of you and I can unmute all of you at the same time. You're going to have 20 kids, 24 kids, 25 kids on. I have 258 people. There's no way I can unmute you all and have any kind of a semblance of a conversation. So that's one view of the participant window. The other one, which is really important, gives you a menu. And I want to show you guys this because this is a really important feature on this piece. This is that same window again we just saw. The difference is I've clicked on the More option. You'll have this More option in your Manage Participants icon, Manage Participants, and here's some of those very important settings we're going to talk about. Number 1, mute all of you on entry. Remember, I set that up ahead of time on the website, but I can also set it up here. 2, allow participants to unmute themselves. I have unchecked that box for us because this way you can't mute and unmute yourself. Only my moderators can do it because I brought them in early enough to do that. I don't deal with the play, enter, chime thing. I've allowed you to rename yourself. I'm going to show you how to do that after we're done with this one segment. But if I was doing this with students, I might uncheck this box. And the reason behind that is, can you imagine? I mean, I taught 8th grade for most of my career, taught 5th grade last spring. I can imagine my kids putting in doofus as their name or something even worse. So you want to be careful about that as far as what kids are putting on there and how it's written in. You can lock the meeting, meaning no one else can come into the meeting after that point. And this last feature here, remember I set up a waiting room for you guys to hang out in. Well, once I clicked this handy dandy admit all button, I went and unchecked this. That meant everybody else just came in as you joined. The first time I did this with the waiting room on Monday morning was an issue because I left 10 people in the waiting room for 15 minutes, not realizing they were still there. I forgot to go back and admit them. And so you can turn this feature off just by checking it and allow them to come back into the meeting. So speaking of renaming yourself, if you are on a computer and you hover your mouse over your picture, you'll see 3 dots pop up on the right-hand side. If you click on that, you can rename yourself. Now, Miss Betancourt, I'm going to rename you just so I can show them as the moderator. I can do it as well. Are you Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Nod or Miss? Miss. Okay, got it. So there we go. I'm going to name you Miss Betancourt, and there you go. You're renamed. So I can rename you. You can rename you. If I turn off that feature for my students in that menu I just showed you, I would say first name only, Diana. I saw your comment come up as far as that. Yeah, I wouldn't put whole name in there. I put first name only, especially if you're going to record. But you can turn that feature off so that only you can name their piece. So that's a good question there on that piece. So that's renaming yourself. The next menu is the share screen. I'm going to come back to that later because that's the majority of the lesson we're going to do. But I do want to go over the chat window real quick. And so you will see 3 different ways the chat session looks, and I'm going to show you all 3 of them. This first one here is the chat room with Barb and I again. Now, there's several features on here. As the host, you can change this little blue drop-down menu from everyone to anyone privately. So for example, I could, Mrs. Harrison, I could change this to you, and I could send you a message privately, and you could send me one privately. Let's say I notice that, I can't see anybody else on here right now. I'm gonna try and find somebody who's got their name up there. All right, Mrs. Jones. I'll pick on Alice for a second. There you go, Alice. Mrs. Jones is not paying attention. I see in her camera, she's like this. I know she's not doing any work. I can send her a private message and not have it go to everyone. Or I haven't heard from somebody in a while because I have cameras off. I can send them a private message. Now, in my Mac, it looks somewhat like this. Notice here I have a private message to Sam Weiss in this particular piece versus going to everyone. As the host, you also have the ability to send a message in the waiting room. Many of you got messages from me in the waiting room. I sent them to you ahead of time to say, hey, we're going to start in a few minutes. But most importantly, when you start your session, you need to open the chat window and you'll have these three dots. These three dots, you click on it, it opens up this drop-down menu, and notice there are 4 options for your participants. They can chat with no one, they can chat with the host only, everyone publicly, or everyone publicly and privately. Basically, this is one of those graduated menus, okay? So no one is no one. Host is privately to me, and that's it. Everyone publicly includes privately to me and everyone publicly, and then this would be everyone privately. Do not, when you have students on, do not leave the everyone publicly and privately on, because that means your students can message each other and you can't monitor it and you can't see it and you can't record it. So the everyone publicly means they either have to message you or they have to message the group, the everybody group. And so that's a really important feature. And here it is on a Windows machine. Again, just looks a little bit different as far as the colors and all that, but you can see the same 3-dot icon is here. And I've got the same setting of everyone publicly. You can change that throughout the chat if you want to. I can change it and make nobody able to comment. Those are all things that I can do throughout this process as the host of the meeting. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the chat feature. There is also a record feature. We're not going to do that until the end. And then, of course, I talked about the breakout room feature, which is a very important piece as well that we'll come back to in just a moment. What we're going to do now is we're going to do what's called raising your hand. So students have a virtual hand. All participants do on this. If you would go to your menu bar for Zoom, probably most of you at the bottom, and go ahead and click on Manage Participants. Click on Participants. And Ms. Dunlap, yes, the same one, same chat on the right side. And then you'll see in there an option to raise your hand under View Options. And many of you have done that. So Peggy Farrell, I'm going to lower your hand and unmute you for a second. Hi, Peggy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. And Maria A., I'm going to lower your hand. I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
So you can see this can be a very useful feature. Grams1, I love that name. I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Grams1.
Hi. Oh.
All right, now you're muted again. And Mrs. Harrison, you know a picture, but I'm going to unmute you as well. Hi. Oh, you don't have you're not letting me unmute you. Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Hi there. How are you?
Great. How are you?
All right, so you can see a very useful feature here to be able to have kids raise a virtual hand, and this shows up whether they have a picture or not. So they don't have to have their video on to see it. Now, what I see on my side is going to be this. I see a picture, and here's one from the other day where their hand is up, and when I hover over it, I can lower their hand. And just like I showed you guys earlier where the 3 dots came up for you, most likely over here, I have a unmute button that's right here as well. So in that window, I can unmute one student individually and then remute them when they're done talking. Miss Logan, I see your question real quick. Yes, you can. You can set a lot of those features up inside of the website. When you set up those pieces ahead of time, you go to the settings tab. The reason I've not done it is because I want to make sure I show you everything, and so I don't want them set up by default. So I'm leaving it the way that I would use it if I were teaching a class to college students. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is what the share windows piece looks like. And that's a very important feature. With the share screen, you need to understand a couple of things. Number one, the default setting for share screen is that you have control, but they can share. So your students can share the screen right now. You can interrupt them. They can't interrupt you. They can't interrupt each other. That's default setting. So I'm going to share this window right now so you can see what my share window looks like. And right now, if one of you wanted to share, you would not be able to do that because I'm the host. All right. This is the window screen. When I click on the share screen button, this is what I see. Now, the easiest way to use this is to have any window open that you want to show ahead of time. This would include an article, a reading, a Word document, you know, a PowerPoint, anything like that. You want to have it open ahead of time. Notice on my Windows desktop, I have an option of sharing the screen. A virtual whiteboard we'll do in a minute. iPhone, iPad. If you understand, you can use Elmos too, if you haven't connected to that computer. Okay, I'll go back to it in a minute. Let me finish this piece. And then, of course, the download center. This is my web browser was open, my Chrome browser was open. On my Mac, of course, I have a whole lot more things open at one given time. And you can see I can share any of these items with you guys as long as they're open, which, by the way, this window is open, and that's how I'm able to share this with you and show you each item. When you go to share something, you then get a menu at the top that says stop share, and you can stop it, and you can share something different. Again, as a reminder, by default, you have control over sharing, but you can change those settings and make it so nobody can share but you. All right. Before we go to the whiteboard, then, let me do the raise hand feature. Again, excuse me. If you click on the participants button and then view options, you'll have an option to do that. Laura, I haven't gotten to that yet. And then you'll be able to raise your virtual hand. By the way, what I recommend you do, hi Chisholm, how are you? You're on.
Oh, hello.
Now you're not. I encourage you guys when you get off this chat to find people you know that have done this and go on and do your own. Everyone I've done this with now, and this is probably like the 12th or 13th one this week already, they've gotten off and they've been able to actually do this together and play around with the features as they go along. Participant button should be at the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer. If you're on a phone, it may be at the top of your screen. So what I'm going to share now is the virtual whiteboard so we can work on that together. The beauty of the virtual whiteboard is I can type in text. I can type in a problem. I can also write on my screen. I can draw doodles. I can put stickers on. Now, what you're going to find is if you go into the View Options section, you will find a button that says Annotate. And in a moment, many of you are going to find out you can write on this whiteboard too. So I'll give you guys a second to figure that one out. Again, View Options and Annotate. You may have to go to the top of your screen, computer users, and find that floating menu. Oh, somebody found their way in. Several people did. Now, obviously, with 200 plus people in a chat, this is going to get really, really, really weird. As you can see already, everybody's having fun. No, Tammy, you cannot control my screen. I'm sorry. Too much going on here. I can do this, though, and take it away. But the neat thing is, as long as I have not erased it, it comes back to where we left off. I can also save this. I have a save option in my toolbar, and I can clear everybody's drawings, and we can start again. So you've got a lot of options here for using the whiteboard, whether it be solving problems, writing sentences, correcting grammar, anything like that. I didn't show you the annotate feature earlier because you can also annotate any document you share. All right. There is no way to know who's doing it because there's too many folks on unless you guys are using the arrow like Brandy is, and I can see their name in the arrow. But unless you're using that particular piece, I won't see who's writing what. But let me give you a scenario. Elementary teachers teaching maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. You've been working on writing and you're so depressed now because you're not going to have a writing assessment. Just show me you're depressed right now. You're so upset you can't do it. But you still want to practice with your kiddos. You could share an article up on your screen. You can show the kids how you annotate the first one and text mark and maybe do, if you're doing an opinion piece, check plus for in favor, check minus for against. Great. Second paragraph. Okay, Mrs. Harrison, you're on second paragraph. Show us what you would underline, what you would check plus, what you would check minus. And you can go through an article like that together the same way you might do in your classroom with your Elmo. So it's a beautiful feature that if you just scan that article in or have it electronic already, somebody's writing in either Japanese or Chinese. That's fantastic. You can do that with your kids. Math teachers, you can put up a set of sample problems on a sheet and you can have different kids solve each problem and they can do it in real time with you so you can help and correct each other the same way you might in your classroom. If you're doing reading or social studies or science, you can have them looking at an article together, talking about main ideas, scientific method in science, anything like that. You've got a bunch of different options here for the virtual whiteboard. I'm going to clear all your drawings, guys. I'm going to remove the whiteboard. I'm going to stop for 1 second, and whoever gets to it first, you may share something with us now by hitting the share screen button and selecting something. We got another whiteboard. All right, go ahead and unshare whoever that was. Click on stop share if you would. Tammy, share screen button's down in the center icon at the bottom. Oh, I love the picture. Amazing ride. I'm missing it right now. I was supposed to go on Thursday last week. All right, next. Anybody else? So again, we got the whiteboard in there. And somebody asked that question about the sharing the whiteboard. It's in the share screen by default. So the second you click share screen, you get that option. And I can override you guys, by the way, and bring up my own whiteboard. So now nobody can share but me. So some interesting and neat features. I'm going to turn off our sharing right now so that nobody is going to share again. I'm going to bring you guys back into the main group with me. So again, somebody asked that question about the whiteboard. It's in the share screen button at the bottom of your window. If you're on a phone or tablet, it might be at the top, but you'll find it in that floating menu bar. The last feature I want to share with you guys this morning is the breakout room feature. And the breakout room has both its benefits and its detractors. I'm going to show you a few things real quick, and then I'm going to actually get us into breakout rooms and talk about how we can use it. But again, I want you to be aware of two things when it comes to breakout rooms. Number one, this is a feature that is going to put your kids in a room where you can't monitor them. Number two, this is a feature that's going to put kids in a room where you can't monitor them. In other words, unless you have a co-facilitator. So if you're out there right now and you're like, ooh, I have a co-teacher. We could come on together. We can put the 5 kids she's going to work with in one group and the other 20 kids with me. Yes, you can. And you have a teacher in both rooms. But if you're like me with 260 people right now, it's going to be fun to put you guys into rooms. So let me show you a couple things real quick and what it looks like for me when I go to put you into virtual rooms. So this is that same window we've been working with now. My window there you can see for me. What I want you to see on the screen, though, is this is the breakout room icon. Remember, if you don't enable this on the website, it will not show up for you. So you must enable it on the website first. I can assign my 90 participants into any number of rooms. I think the max rooms is 50. So I could put you guys into rooms and have 50 different rooms if I wanted to. That's that case. Then you have two options, automatically or manually. Automatically, it just randomly puts people in rooms. Manually, this will probably work best for you guys because you know your kiddos. You know your students and you know what you might be doing with them. And if you're going to do the example I said earlier of putting 5 kids with the ESC teacher or 3 kids with a paraprofessional or you guys together, the ELL kids with the ELL para, that you can do. When you click on manually, all it does is gives you a list and lets you manually put people into breakout rooms. I won't show you that today because it's very hard to see with 260 people in a chat. But you just click create breakout room and it will do that for you and then you can open it up. So we're going to do that here. I'm going to put you guys into breakout rooms. And what I'm going to do is, since there's so many of you, I'm going to create 25 breakout rooms, 10 to 11 of you each. I'm going to put you guys in your breakout room. When I do that, you're going to find 2 new things have happened for you. Number one, you can unmute your own microphone now and have a conversation with your new colleagues. Number 2, you can share. The share feature comes back for you. You can share a whiteboard, documents, whatever you want to do. I'm going to pop into a few of those rooms and say hello to show you I can go to all of them. And then I'll bring you guys back. But while you're there, talk about how you might use some of the features we've talked about already with your students, and you may find some intriguing new ways to figure that out. So here you go. You're going to your rooms now.
This is what he was talking about, unmuting yourself.
Yep. Hello, Breakout Room 1.
Hello.
Yes.
How are you guys? Yes, you can unmute yourself and start talking. You can also share whatever you want to do. I'll let you guys discuss. I'm going to go somewhere else. Hello.
From Mabry Elementary.
Oh, okay.
How are you guys?
Hey.
Hello.
So I can pop in and out and see what you guys are doing. I'll see y'all back in a little bit.
Facilitator view the breakout
Hi, Breakout
meetings?
Room 3. Yes, how are you guys? That answers your question, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see them all at once, probably
No,
from your
I
screen.
cannot. No, I
Oh,
cannot.
you have to actively go into them.
Correct.
Is this not like leaving the kids alone in your classroom, though?
I'm sorry?
I said, is this not like leaving your kids alone in the classroom, though?
It is. It is. So you got to be very careful. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll let
Yeah,
you
I
guys
wouldn't do
keep
this
discussing.
with
I'll be back.
elementary.
This would be. All right. 3-year-old.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Well,
Y'all doing all right?
We're getting there.
All right.
I don't know. I teach high school. I'm thinking maybe I'll use Zoom to record classes and have them watch it.
Nice to hear from you, Laura.
Hi, guys.
you too.
How are y'all? Hi, cutie.
Hey.
Hey.
Say hi, Reed.
Hey.
All right. So you can see I can pop around from room to room to room. I'm going to go somewhere else and I'm going to bring you guys back.
Button at the bottom.
Hi, guys.
And then, hi.
Hi.
How are y'all? See, I can pop in and out wherever I want.
We're
All right,
talking
I'll
about how
see
to
you guys
share our
back.
whiteboard again.
I am.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are y'all?
Good.
Well.
Yep. See, I can pop in and out. I'm going to bring you guys all back now.
Okay.
All right, looks like most of you are back or coming back. I'm going to back to join us here in this main session. Welcome, everybody. Just so you see again, this is the screen that I see once you're in your breakout rooms and I pull them up. Notice I can leave breakout room 3. I can join breakout room 1. I can close all rooms and come back to the main window. I heard a lot of great conversation as I popped into like 5 or 6 of them. The answer is yes, I can go to any breakout room. No, I cannot see what they're doing when I'm not there. No, the recording does not record where I'm not at. So it only records me and where I go. So when I pop into your room, you guys are on that recording with me. That's why you want to be careful about using this feature. You know your kids, you know your students. If you can trust them to be in a room for 2, 3, 4 minutes together and have a conversation, great, do it. If you can't, obviously you may not go that route because it's not a good idea. But those of you who have a co-facilitator, a co-teacher, a colleague you want to work with, you never know. If you're elementary and you guys are departmentalized sharing kids, you may want to do some things together. The teachers who I work with at James Elementary School are going to do a morning meeting on Tuesday of next week in Zoom together so they can talk to all the kids at the same time. But that's the breakout room feature. And again, it's something you need to set up ahead of time on the website, but you can definitely play around with it. The last thing is all about recording. And what I'm going to show you real quick is what it saves to when you're done. So each of you on your computer have a folder called Documents, My Documents, one of those 2 things. This is my Mac you're looking at right now. I have a Documents folder. It may be called My Documents on Windows. But Zoom will automatically create this folder for you called Zoom the second you do your first call. Once it is done, it saves it by date and time order. So here is our call from this morning, and notice nothing is in there yet because we're not done. In this one, you can see this is the one I did yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It saved an audio file, it saved a text file of the chat we did, and it saved the video, which I can rename the video. The nice thing about this video, if you're going to record your session, is that the video comes in a format, an MP4, you can easily upload to YouTube. As of Monday, we were talking about uploading it directly to Edsby, and then you guys all know what happened with Edsby. It's having its hiccup and issues now because the entire earth is on it between 9 and 4. So what you may want to do is create for yourself a professional YouTube account where you can post your videos and then send a link in Edsby to your students. They can then access that link and watch the video again to see what they may have missed. I'm going to do the same thing with you guys. I'm going to post these to my professional account, and then I'm going to send you guys a link via first class PDS. Here's the chat we did the other day if you want to go back and look at it. So it does store this stuff here for you. And at some point, I'm going to review the chat, and we're going to modify this training based on it because I'm learning new things every day as I go through this piece together. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording. When I do that,